And we're back after a long month of weddings, sicknesses, and some very bad movies. We're finally back in the chair, ready to give you all the spoilers for the latest blockbusters. Today, we have The Amateur coming right up for you. Welcome to Spoiler Alert. After a long month, we're finally back, Evan, ready to spoil some more movies. I'm your host, Sheldon, here with Evan as always, and we have had a bad month of movies, have we not?
I was going to say, I thought you were going to start with your brother's wedding. I was like, I don't think it was that bad.
It was all right. It went fine. You know, shout out to Colin and Jess. They're a great team and all that stuff.
Sure.
But now that we get to the real matter at hand, we just got through March, okay? So March
we got two awful releases.
March was a rough time.
Actually, that's not true. I loved Snow White.
We're gonna get
See,
back
that's
to
really funny. That's really funny.
So Snow White was released just a couple weeks ago. It feels like it was a month ago because we've behind the scenes
been hating on it for so long.
Right. And
yeah,
it's been we decided, you know, between Evan and I, we decided that we weren't going to give Disney
our money,
our very hard-earned money that we...
I feel like we already lost... I lost that drive to do it, and I was like, you know what, Disney... Captain America was the last straw until you drop something else.
It's true. It's true. We already spent money on Captain America Brave New World. We didn't feel like we needed to give Disney more money with Snow White. Yeah. But then again, we kind of did with Amateur because Amateur was a 20th Century Studios released. Which
so it's the same thing.
It's still going to the same
thing,
pocket.
different day.
But the point is, Snow White came out. We didn't see it, and that's why you never saw a review here. And I was under the weather for like a month, an entire month.
We both dreaded that, though. I know that your wife was like, no, and your wife was the only reason we would have gone to see it because I was like, I'm not going alone.
Yeah,
no way am I going to walk into that theater alone.
What I will say, though,
tried to bring a date. She said no, respectably, but
respect that. The downfall of Snow White was very predicted. And we could talk a whole episode on that, but we don't want to. Needless to say, the box office looks horrible for Snow White. I don't think it's crossed 175 million on, and it's on a huge budget. You know, it's on a $300-ish million budget.
Yeah,
and
awful, dude.
it's not even come close to that, and that's just setting aside not even talking about how bad the reviews have been for Snow White. Now, again, I haven't seen it. Evan hasn't seen it. We're not going to see it, so you're not going to see an episode reviewing.
It's just not worth our time, but honestly, more than anything.
That said, it does have the lowest rated
on IMDb.
The lowest rated movie on IMDb in IMDb history.
Well, okay, if we're getting into the technicality aspect, because I corrected your ass the other day and was like, well, but there was like literally 4 other films that were random, like Russian films.
Okay,
fun fact,
those don't count. Okay,
yeah, that's
I mean, real. Okay, at least let's go with a Hollywood release. A big budget Hollywood release. It's the lowest of all time.
Human Centipede 2 scored better than Snow White.
Honestly, who
I don't think anybody knows what that is. I think that you do. I am hoping you don't.
I don't.
Good. For anybody that actually is listening, go look up Human Centipede 2 and look at the Spark Notes and look at what the movie's like about.
I would probably recommend you don't do that. Knowing Evan's
you should.
taste in movies.
What the?
No, I'm just kidding. That's not true.
Do you want me to explain it?
Snow White was bad. Let's go there.
I'll go off script and I'll do it.
And Snow White was bad. You saw Minecraft. We had Minecraft release in April.
Man, that hurt my soul.
Evan was.
Tell us. In case if you couldn't already tell by just looking at me, I love my video games, and I've grown up playing Minecraft. That movie was designed for a 13-year-old ADHD, iPad, Asperger's ass child. When I was sitting in that
very
theater,
specific.
Yeah, I just think of my brother. It's like that's what he was made for. Then he comes out of the theater and chicken Jackie, which at first it was funny. I'll be honest. The guy that brought like an actual chicken to the theater, I was like, that's me. But I was very sad to see that something that I grew up watching and loving just didn't turn out good at all.
How do you think we felt about Indiana Jones, like in the Dial of Destiny? I mean,
yeah, but I have more
Star
of a
Wars
connection.
The sequel trilogy.
We don't need to get into Star Wars. Not today.
We'll talk about that.
Not today. But it was really disappointing. I was really sad. Jack Black was really funny. Jennifer Coolidge was hilarious. Her and the Villager getting it on. Her. That was awesome.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Probably for the better. But the point was that was a tough film. I felt very confused about my life.
The point is, it's been a rough month between being sick of bad movies. It's been a rough month. But we had a little bit of change come this past week as we got a little lucky. The Amateur, which was better, by 20th Century Studios, aka owned by Disney, so it's still technically another Disney release, but it didn't look and feel like one.
Nope.
So that's a plus. Stars Rami Malek and Lawrence Fishburne, and follows the story of a CIA analyst who is thrust into the spy world when his wife is brutally murdered. Spoiler alert.
And he basically just decides to almost kind of blackmail the CIA a little bit into being like, you're going to train me to go and catch his killers. And the whole plot is him basically getting trained, and then it turns out that he's actually a lot smarter than everybody else, so people are like, oh, he can't get this. He's too dumb, blah, 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 and then he kind of goes off and does his own. So,
right. And
which is really, it was an interesting kind of take on it, but I don't think it was too original.
It was very different than your average spy movie.
Yeah.
And it was actually, so it was based on a book, which in itself was adapted into a movie back in the 80s. And so it's actually a remake.
Basically.
But with it being a remake, it didn't really feel like it was part of an existing franchise because I don't think that anybody really knew of it before.
Yeah, nobody was like, oh, I've heard of this movie. Oh, I've read this book.
Right. And it was a surprise. I will say that. It was a surprise. So
I was happy walking out of the theater. I was like, all right.
Yeah, you felt like you
this gives me hope for this next curve of movies coming out.
Right, you paid the money that you did to be there, and you felt like it was earned. It wasn't
speaking of fantastic money for movies.
Earned. But before we talk about Amateur, we had CinemaCon recently.
We did,
and we got some crazy trailers.
I know your favorite already was the Mission Impossible trailer.
Absolutely.
Which I watched too, and we both just got goosebumps. And
Mission Impossible Final Reckoning releasing May 23rd. It's coming up soon. It's coming up so soon, but they released another trailer, and it looks insane. This movie looks insane.
I'm so excited for it. But we did get another trailer, and I know that you were pretty happy about it too.
Tell me about it. Tell everybody out there about...
For my most anticipated movie of the year, we got the trailer for Tron Ares. And immediately after I saw that, I went, that's awesome, Tron Legacy, and pulled it up.
Here's the thing. If I had seen that Tron Ares trailer before we did our most anticipated movie,
you'd probably have it a bit higher.
That probably would have been number 2 behind Mission Impossible.
They did a great job at this like really intense, edgy, like electro music in the trailer that kind of gave it this like really intense like aspect to it. And I was really a big fan of that. Just Jared Leto. Why?
Jared Leto seems to be like a plague for movies. I mean, think about Suicide Squad and Morbius.
I was about to say, I loved Morbius.
And
the only movie that he was in that I didn't mind, but that was also because it was written by the guy who directed Dune, was Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah, he was in Blade Runner. That's right.
But he also
I mean, I don't know. I can't. I'm not going to say. I don't know if it'll work or not. I just know that I am excited for that movie. I think it looks good. I think visually it looks incredible.
I'm so excited.
I'm excited to see what happens with it. What they do.
The last thing on CinemaCon that I'm very excited for is in just a few weeks we get Thunderbolts, and I could not be happier. They've done a great job marketing, trailers, like the cast. I'm genuinely so excited for this Marvel movie, and I know that Marvel's
and it's the first time that I've been excited for a Marvel movie in a long time. Yeah.
But we also know that Marvel's like, oh yeah, this movie, this is going to be good.
That's why they gave it their May release date. They have more confidence in it than they did with Captain America. That's why they gave it the May release date.
And so I think that they also have more confidence with this than the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I do think so too.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four, I don't know about it yet. I bet
you will get a second trailer soon because it's coming up.
Yeah,
July.
It is.
July time.
It is. We also got an extended sneak peek.
Superman.
About Superman.
Dude, I saw that in the theater and I was like, why am I watching 5 minutes of this movie? And then it like cuts to the actual soundtrack. And I was like,
it just, wow. I can't even tell you how disinterested I am in Superman. It It doesn't look
We
good
talked
to
about
me.
this, and I think that the actor is going to do a pretty decent job.
Oh yeah,
I think he looks like he's going to play the part well.
Play the role well, but I just don't think it's going to be a good movie overall. I think it's going to be I think everybody will like it when it comes out, but I don't think it's going to be anything lasting that everybody's going to be like, that's a great movie.
It's not going to be, a great example is like this, The Amateur. It was a great movie. We walked out of it and we were like, okay, that wasn't bad. But there wasn't anything that like I took away that was like, wow.
Wow, you just spoiled everybody's your review for everybody.
They don't know what my score is yet. Well,
let's talk about The Amateur now that we're here.
Womp womp.
The Amateur, like I said, stars Rami Malek, who I think the only other thing I've seen him in is No Time to Die and maybe Night at the Museum. I think he's in a Night at the Museum movie.
Is he?
Yeah, he plays a
maybe he just voices a character.
No, he plays like a pharaoh, an Egyptian person. I
think you're right,
but I don't know. Right. It's been a while since I've seen those. Yeah. So the most recent movie I've seen him in is.
But on that note,
No Time to Die.
I really like Rami Malek. I think he's a really good actor.
He is. No, and let's start with that. Let's start with some pros of this movie. The things that really worked for us.
He's weird, and he does that in this movie.
He is. I mean, you look at him. He is kind of awkward, but given his role as he plays a CIA analyst who does, he works with data all day and coding.
It's just a nerd.
Fits it well.
Yeah, and he's kind of a little like you can sense a little bit of that like kind of crazy where he just kind of like maybe looks or like twitches and like kind of turns a little weird, but that's like how his character is supposed to be, but that's who he's impersonating, and he does a really good job.
Yeah, and that's I guess one of my problems with No Time to Die is that Rami Malek wasn't a very intimidating bad guy because of this reason, because he was born to play a role like this because he's awkward, he's weird,
yeah,
and he owns it, and he's scrawny, he's not physically intimidating,
and he doesn't care.
They make a comment in the movie that he doesn't think that they don't think he could beat up a 90-year-old nun. Yeah. Which when you see him, you're like, yeah, he probably couldn't. I don't see that. I
feel like it could, but like the point is he's not supposed to be able to play this Jack Reacher type of CIA guy that we're kind of used to seeing.
He's not Jason Bourne. He's not Ethan Hunt. He's not John.
Yeah,
Wick,
not this guy that you see who's like intimidating and has this kind of swagger to him that you're like, oh, this guy's gonna kick some ass. Like, no, you were like, nah, this is the guy that they called to fix tech problems,
right?
Which I thought was a great casting.
I like that approach, right? Because it's something unique, right? Normally we're used to seeing, ex-CIA guy. I mean, this is every Jason Statham movie. It's like ex-CIA, ex-Marines, ex-Black Ops, ex-whatever.
I served in the military for 30 years, and now
some kind of thing that personally affects him, and now he has to go be physically manhandle everybody that he sees.
Basically.
That's like every Liam Neeson movie, too.
Yeah.
And I like that it was a different approach. Instead of, here's Rami Malek, he's going to go get all strong and learn how to beat up bad guys. No, he's going to still fail at that, and he's just going to have to use his mind his intelligence to defeat the villains.
On that, I mean, spoiler, but in the plot, right, he blackmails the CIA into saying like, hey, train me. Mm-hmm. And part of the story is that he basically just kind of almost gives up, and everybody's like, oh, well, he failed, like whatever, like we'll find his secrets, like this and this. And then it kind of shifts pretty quick where all of a sudden the CIA is like, wait, he laid a trap in his own files that we can't find. And then he was slowly learning how to like make his own passports. He got his own gun, and like then all of a sudden he's across the world. And I thought that was kind of fun because it just already shows his character saying like, hey, I am smarter than you guys. I wanted to get where I needed to go. You got me there. Bye. And that's exactly what he's supposed to do, because he's supposed to be this abnormally smart person who just overthinks everything. And I thought that was a really subtle way of not making it like too dramatic, where he was like, he hacked into the CIA's code and did blah, 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 and like made it like this big scene where he was just like, he printed out passports and now he's gone. Like that was because he was planning it. Anyway.
And I really liked too how they showed that he wasn't some kind of action hero, because when they brought him in moments where he needed to actually fight, they showed him as the weak one, as the one who would run, as the one who would be afraid to
the first time that he was doing it, the first time that he was going to have to try and kill somebody, he like kept on like going back and forth, like, don't make me do this, please. And then like he'd kind of like snap and bang on the glass and be like, hurry up or you're going to die. Like he kind of was struggling with himself a lot through it. And then finally he basically let the girl live, but then she got ran over, and it was kind of funny.
Spoiler alert.
Wow. It was kind of funny, just the CGI of her body, just
like a limp doll. But no, I thought that was done really well. I also really liked the whole globetrotting aspect, right? That's a very spy movie cliche. You just go to different locations around the globe and go watch any Mission Impossible James Bond movie. That's what they do. You go to different locations.
Yeah.
And I thought it kept it engaging because, mainly because you have the CIA that's after him and he's on his own kind of rogue mission. And so I thought that by putting him in different locations really kept the story more engaging and more moving along.
Yeah, because if he was trying to do that in the US, there's that's not as plausible to happen. I did really like where it eventually kind of started to end, like the scenery of them kind of going to Russia and Finland and everything. I feel like we don't really get to see that type of a scenery much. And maybe we do, and I'm just not paying enough attention, but it sounds really dumb, but like a Russian shipyard off the coast of Finland.
Right.
That scenery, I'm trying to think of like a movie that kind of takes place in that area that we have or haven't seen. And I kind of enjoyed that. I was like, that's kind of new.
I really like just the way that the movie played out because ultimately it's about him getting revenge on his wife's killer, and the movie is him trying to find his wife's killer because right at the beginning of the movie, his wife goes to London. There's a terror attack in London, and 4 people are kind of responsible for this, and one of them is the one who pulls the trigger and kills his wife, shoots his wife. And throughout the movie, he locates those 4 people, or he's trying to locate. He locates one of them and kind of leads him to the other 3. But he's ultimately trying to go after one guy, the guy who pulled the trigger. But in order to get there, he has to go through the other 3. And so I thought that idea was very engaging. And the way that it ultimately panned out, I think, where he kind of stayed true to his character, that he wasn't a killer. He wasn't a natural killer. That was made very clear throughout the movie.
He just did things that led to people dying.
Right. And then ultimately, by the time he gets to face his wife's killer, he doesn't pull the trigger, but he ends up getting Interpol involved. And
he uses what he is good at, and that was being the smart one.
Right.
People underestimated him, so then he did what he was supposed to. And I mean, I kind of liked it, but kind of didn't like it, right? The plot felt a little predictable to an aspect.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean,
which you kind of enjoy, but you kind of don't enjoy, because then you're like, oh, that means that he's going to go, kick some ass and go kill this guy. Awesome. He did that. Okay. Now he's going to go kill this guy, technically, right? In the scheme, which I didn't mind, but also at the same time, on that other side, right, that kind of spy thriller, you kind of want to be like, okay, well, what's he going to have to do next? And
right.
You're kind of playing that.
But question. I really did like the way that they approached him going to defeat these people, is that he's using his intelligence to outsmart them, right? So one way he kills one of the killers is
traps them in a box, the first lady, technically, but then she gets hit by a car.
It's like some kind of allergy. I don't know what
he basically stalks her to seeing that she has asthma, so she's going to get breathing problems, and then eventually he locks her in this cage, puts poisonous gas in there, and is like, "Tell me what I need
pollen.
to know."
I think it's just.
Oh, I think that's literally what it was.
Pollen from a flower,
because she was allergic to it or something. Yeah, but he had to learn that, right? And then the second guy was at the pool.
Yeah, he outsmarts. He does science. I'm just gonna. Yeah, there we go.
That's basically what he does. Science and math.
That's science and math. But the idea, I like the idea of him, instead of using his muscles, he uses his mind to outsmart. Yeah,
and I feel like that relates to a lot of people. Like a more common man, right? Mm-hmm. Who's not 6'6", 280 pounds, Jack Reacher type of just build. Somebody who's maybe a little bit more like, I'm smart. I can think of a way to kind of get through that. And I felt like that helped people relate more.
Right.
But yeah, I thought it was intricate, and it also was a little unique for the way that he decided to, because you talk about spy thrillers that just kill, a plane crash, car crash, blah, 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 blah. Right. But he was a little bit more
methodical in what he did,
which I kind of thought was fun, right? Mm-hmm. He sat there, like you were saying, used science and math to figure out how thick the glass was, to see how fast this little device would need to shake and vibrate to then make the glass fragile, so that way it would fall and basically kill his drop, because he was 200 feet in the air. Yeah. And I just thought that was kind of neat. Or the bomb one, I don't think that was as intricate. He was just more, I
still like the idea. It was cool. I like
where he just kind of gave him a choice. It was like, yeah, you could try, but you're probably going to die.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Anyway, the
visually,
point is,
this movie wasn't like there wasn't anything like crazy spectacular about the movie visually.
Yeah, there wasn't any
fine.
scenes that we like sat there. We're like, wow, look, whoa.
You could tell that they shot these movies on location.
Mm-hmm.
At least I assume they did. If not, then they got away with some good visual effects to do it. But I assume they shot these movies on this movie.
A lot of it looks like it
because it looked very real. I know the visual effects played very well.
Which I was happy with.
Or whatever visual effects they had to use played very well with what they got in camera.
Yeah.
And so nothing spectacular, grand, or like, I mean, it's not freaking Mission Impossible. Like,
same with on the soundtrack,
incredible.
Right? Like it was good. There wasn't anything that we were sitting there and like we had this unique theme for him.
Right. There wasn't really a theme song to it, but I still thought the soundtrack worked very well in context of the movie.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it was bad, but
I mean, it worked. It felt like it was a spy thriller soundtrack.
Yeah.
And so I don't know who did the soundtrack for this movie, but it worked in
That's
the movie.
fair. I'll give him that. I don't know. Every time I think of like a good soundtrack, especially right now, I just revert to like Tron Legacy and just
You want Daft Punk to come and score the amateur? Is that what you're saying?
No, I just know that John Williams and Hans Zimmer can't compose everything. Like they just can't. So then I have to be like, all right.
No, there's
fine.
other good guys. There's
but
other great composers.
Okay, but let's take John Williams and Hans Zimmer. They are in the top 3.
They are
tier 1. They are the definition
they're up
of
here,
composers.
They're tier 1, and then there's
so that's I give grace to a movie like this, right? They don't clearly have the budget for it. The music was okay. I didn't really think that it was the best, but I thought that it was still fine.
I mean, it worked for me.
I was like, whatever.
It worked for me.
A very whatever for most of it, but
fair enough. Any other pros that you would say that you would tell people reason why
I do like Lawrence Fishburne. I don't think that they got to use him to his full potential. I hate to say it.
He didn't really have that huge of a role in the movie, but
I agree with that. I think he played a better, more major role in like John Wick's series, where he was kind of this like weird kind of underworld king, but then he got to be very expressive. In this, he was supposed to be, which I thought was a little interesting casting. In this, he was supposed to be this ex-CIA, basically just, top dog who's supposed to train him. And there wasn't really a lot that went on to show that he really knew what he was doing.
Yeah, that's
training wise.
They didn't. Yeah, they really just.
They didn't establish him. They were just more like, "Hey, this is your veteran teacher who's going to show you." And then it's Lawrence Fishburne. I don't know. That was my thing that I didn't really like with it, but I do like his
him as an actor.
Yeah, I like Lawrence Fishburne.
I think he's very talented. Yes,
I think he's cool. I like him.
Okay, then what would you say? Let's talk about the cons. What are your reasons why you would tell people not to go? I think that we both
agree with the same one. Was the one girl who really didn't really have much to do with it. At the very beginning, we noticed that Charlie,
right? His name's Charlie, yeah.
Charlie is chatting with this basically online kind of random system and constantly guessing where this person lives. But then this person's also feeding him government secrets, literally. And then it eventually leads to him being able to use those government secrets to blackmail his superior. Right. Point being, we eventually get through the story that we see and meet who we thought was a man at first, just judging by it from the background that Rami Malek's Charlie character has done. And we meet this girl, kind of weird. She's in the story for another like 10 minutes and then dies.
I've seen her before.
I was like, what?
Where have I seen her? She's in another movie. I can't remember for the life of me what I've seen her in, but I know I've seen her in a movie. But I agree with you though.
Interesting.
She
was supposed to play this really big part at first.
It felt like it was
it
felt like it was very shoehorned. Like her character was only there. And yes, I appreciate the fact that they established that she was already existed instead of just being like,
hey, here's this random person.
Instead of him just being in Istanbul and be like, oh, by the way, I know this person. So I like that they established
I'll
that
give him
before that someone existed, but I just felt like it was only there to help him out.
It was to serve the two purposes of him being like, I don't know where to go next. And then she's like, well, here, let me help you with my resources.
And I don't know if that was part of the original book or part of the original movie adaptation or what, but it felt like a cop out is what it seemed like to me.
Honestly, that was my major downside. My second one is probably more minor. John Bernthal. I love John Bernthal. I grew up watching him in The Walking Dead, and he did a great job. And then, of course, watched him in like Punisher and a lot of other films. And then, of course, Daredevil, Punisher, blah, 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 and some other things. I think Jon Bernthal is a fantastic actor if you let him do what he you let him roam free a little bit, almost. And in this, he gets like 5 minutes of screen time.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, so his character is like this field agent, the CIA field agent who clearly has had some experience, who's been some places, probably has a violent type of nature, but they don't ever use that or don't ever show it because he's in the beginning once at CIA headquarters to
kind of like, hey, like let's meet at lunch, buddy. Like, how are you?
And then he shows up again in Russia to try and convince Charlie to come home, but his character didn't really serve a purpose. And I thought what they should have done is because about halfway through the movie, the CIA sends someone to come after Charlie. I don't know why they didn't have Jon Bernthal's character be that guy who they sent after Charlie.
I think the biggest mistake, because I imagined this in my brain when I was watching it, right? We see Charlie walk into this basically little bar pub on the shoreline, and he's sitting there. And I think the best idea, instead of the camera basically being behind Charlie, already staring at the door, the audience is like, okay, somebody's going to walk in. Who is it? And then we see him walk in and then we're like, oh, look who it is. That excitement was not there and they did a poor job. I think it would have been great if they did a really good still of Charlie's character sitting there, with his really crappy drink, really depressed and sad that he's like, I'm so close to, finding this and whatnot. And then we kind of just really slowly in the background hear him kind of sneak up and he takes a seat and we see that genuine surprise.
I
thought that was a really bad aspect, but that was also because I really like Jon Bernthal. So I wanted his
He is a good actor, but I think
he didn't get to act in this movie.
Even just from
he read lines and was there. I'm only cutting off because I've been watching Daredevil, and I know that you haven't. When you see this movie, his outfit and his face, hair, beard, and mustache, everything is the exact same in Daredevil. I swear to God, that he was on set for Daredevil, and then they were like, hey, we need you for 3 days. And he's like,
probably.
Great. And he went over. They're stills, man. It's like so stupid how similar they are.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll be done on that. But yeah, I was pretty sad that we didn't get to see Jon Bernthal do a little bit more. I was pretty sad about that.
Yeah, I just think from a writing perspective, it would have been better to actually incorporate him into the movie.
Right?
It would have made it a more...
Dude, for real.
It would have made a more complete story, I think.
I think it would have been interesting if we saw maybe a little bit more hints of like Jon Bernthal like having to kind of follow his tracks too.
Right.
And he's like following Lawrence Fishburne.
You could add your plot B as him being the one the CIA sends to track down Charlie, and then ultimately they come to a confrontation, and maybe at that point he decides to help Charlie.
I feel like having Jon Bernthal as the veteran instead of Lawrence Fishburne, not that I don't love Lawrence Fishburne, would genuinely make more sense, right? Because you think of a veteran agent who's been in the field, maybe not on the retired side, which in this case, Lawrence Fishburne
And I think that's why they went with it, because...
I agree.
And maybe that's, again, just a part of the original
Because they were like,
story.
Look at this guy. It's an old guy who's retired, like throw him with the worst trainer you can, just to maybe as like an insult. I don't know. But yeah, I think that there's a lot that they could have done to the plot to make it a little bit more fun and engaging. I'm still happy with how it ended. I'm not going to complain. But overall, there's still a few things that I know that you're with too that we were both kind of like,
we're good.
Oh, I was like, well.
Then
That being said,
what would you say? Would you say anything else before we? I guess
no. Honestly, I mean, I walked out of the theater and I was like, hey, I'm not moved. I didn't go home. I didn't call Sheldon immediately. I wasn't like, dude, this was amazing. I literally texted you when it was done and I said, that was pretty good. I think you'll enjoy it. And that's all I said.
And that's pretty much what happened. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
I genuinely recommend seeing this because it was this kind of refreshing taste of like, hey, here's a decent film that's not Independence Day Resurgence.
It's not Independence Day Resurgence.
But yeah, I was pretty happy about it. I would go see it again. Give me a little bit because like it didn't have anything that I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go see this again, like Star Wars.
Well, with that said, let's talk about ratings. So before we talk about ratings, we always got to remind you of our movie scale. For me, Independence Day Resurgence is a 1 star. It's the absolute worst you can get when it comes to filmmaking. I don't know. Maybe if I saw Snow White, that could change. But as it stands.
I don't think Snow White deserves to be anywhere mentioned other
maybe
than
like a 0.5 or 0 star. I don't know. Maybe they can't give it that low. I don't know. As a 5 star, I have The Creator. Again, a movie that's just average for me. Wasn't impressed.
I'm so sad that I agree barely with you. I'm a little bit higher, but
10 as a 10-star movie, I have Mission Impossible Fallout because that movie is incredible. Evan, tell us about your scale.
Of course.
Very briefly.
Very depressing film. Very depressing film. Honestly, this and Eternals is probably tied up there, honestly. But Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny, and then Fast X, and then, of course, my favorite, Interstellar.
And that is a 1, 5, and 10 star for Evan. Mm-hmm. So with that said, let's talk about our ratings for The Amateur. For me,
I think I was a little bit lower than you, right?
I think you were a little bit higher than me. I don't know.
Really? Oh, yeah.
I gave it a 6.5. And honestly, I think I'd probably give it a little higher now that I think
I did a
more
7,
about it. Now that we've been
7.2.
sitting here talking about it, I think I'd probably give it a 7 as well. And
I think I gave it a 7 too, but we just put 7 to keep it simple.
That's what you gave it as well.
I didn't mind it. I know that you didn't either, but again, we walked out and I wasn't like, wow.
Yeah, ultimately, it's just like there was nothing really no wow wrong factor with the movie, but there wasn't a wow factor where you're like, wow, this movie's incredible.
That's how I see movies between that like 6 to like 7.5 range of they're entertaining, but there's nothing that wows me into that like, ooh, score, ooh, scenery, ooh, character plot, the acting or whatever it is that puts me into that 8, 9, or 10. Because 8, 9, and 10 in my aspect is like something that you could watch pretty frequently, and that really enjoy a lot. That you're kind of like, wow, this was great.
Yeah. So that said, anyway. I would actually probably give it a 7. I put a 6.5 here, but I'd probably actually give it a 7 now that we're talking about it because I think it is. I think it is a good movie. I think it works.
Thought it was fun.
And and I would recommend to anybody listening to go see it because this is one of the movies that I would say you should pay to keep the theater industry alive because it's a good movie.
It was supposed to be, I mean, it's not really, but it's kind of a more unique idea, right? It's not something that we've just, this garbage that's getting revamped or a sequel or whatnot. It was a little bit more on the original side, different actors taking lead roles. It was fun. It was definitely not as big of studios as we're used to, technically. Right. I mean, from the past movies that we've seen.
I guess 20th Century Studios now, not Fox anymore, is making a resurgence. But
but honestly,
I would say definitely pay your money and go see this movie because it's a good movie and I think you'll enjoy it in the theater.
Yeah, even if it's on a $5, Tuesday kind of thing, like still go see it. It's totally.
I have a strict rule against seeing movies on a $5 Tuesday. I agree because you get the lowest form you get the scum of cinema goer in there.
But I don't mind going if it's like a revamp of something. Like let's say it was something that we were seeing again. Just for like
fair enough.
That we were kind of like whatever, and we just went and saw it again just to keep it cheap. I'd be like, cool,
fair enough. What do audiences think about this movie?
I think they were on par with us,
pretty close to where we were at. IMDb has it sitting at a 6.7. Rotten Tomatoes is a 61%, which I think is a little low for this movie.
I think so too.
I don't think it deserves a 61%.
I think 6.5 would be the lowest. There, I personally don't think that there's anything that really pushes it into that 50 percentile. Personally. I mean, I'd really love to see one day and maybe spend that time and go through on people that are like, it's a 3. Like, why?
Yeah,
what would you?
Rotten Tomatoes is very interesting because critics are so, they're so, you know what?
They have Snow White at like a 35, 40%. I'm like,
I'll be politically correct here. They're humans. I'll give you that. And they have their opinions.
Yeah,
they aren't always does not. Anyways, The Amateur, I would recommend seeing it. I think it was good. I think it was worth a watch.
So fun.
You know what? Like I always say, let's keep the theater industry alive because going to theaters is very magical. It's very special, especially for me. Mm-hmm. It's special for Evan. And if it's special for you, this is a good movie to go pay to see in the theater and keep the theater industry alive. So I'd recommend doing that. With that said, any final thoughts on The Amateur before we wrap up?
Nope. I am. I know that you're excited, but over these next few weeks, we're going to be slowly working towards, 2 really big films. Thunderbolts, which I'm really excited for, and then slowly but surely, we're going to be working on watching all of the Mission Impossible.
Oh boy, that's going to be lots of fun. So be sure to tune in. We are going to be reviewing all 7 Mission Impossibles up to this point. And it's going to be a fun time. I'm going to have a lot of fun. I know that.
I'm probably going to have to go see number 8. We'll go see it the day together, and I'll probably have to go see it a few more times. Just to really get that full feel of being like, damn, this was great.
I'm so pumped for it. I'm excited for Thunderbolts too. So
I am as well.
I'm not excited to review Black Widow and Ant-Man and the Wasp leading up to it, knowing there's a lot of characters from those movies.
You might have a new oneer.
I might, because Black Widow was horrible. I'm just gonna say that. Ant-Man and the Wasp, though, that movie wasn't bad.
Yeah,
the second one was all right. I think I've only seen it once, honestly.
I think but too. Anyway,
be sure to tune in next time for spoiler alert, and be sure to catch all your spoilers right here all the time. So we'll see you next time.